evening, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, an appeal for information following a murder in Grimsby, van thefts in West Lindsey and sprucing up Hornsmead. And later in tonight's programme, the thoughts of both the Hull City and Scunthorpe managers in the Sports with Jack. And I'll be talking to Councillor Caroline Fox on the Chairman's Awards in East Yorkshire. Police would like to speak to this woman who may be a key witness in a Grimsby murder investigation. 45-year-old Tony Richardson was assaulted outside the Halifax Bank on Old Marketplace on Monday afternoon. He was taken to Diana, Princess of Wales Hospital for treatment and later died. Police say the woman was not involved in the incident, but she may be able to help with the investigation. The suspect is described as a white man between 20 and 45 years old, wearing dark-rimmed glasses. An inquest has been launched into the death of a father of three who was murdered last week. 30-year-old Shane Gilmer and his pregnant girlfriend Laura Sugden were attacked at their home near Driffield last Friday night. It's believed neighbour Anthony Lawrence attacked the couple using a crossbow, which was found at the scene. His body was later found in a van near North Yorkshire on Sunday. Scarborough's Peace Home Park is to be upgraded. The Borough Council will carry out essential work on the boat deck and create a new multi-purpose kiosk next to the putting green. Work will also be done on the lake to alleviate flooding. The council has worked with the Friends of Peace Home Park in the plans to ensure that it's in keeping with the park's existing nature and theme. The project will be completed by the summer. And meanwhile, Hornsmead is to get a facelift. The Town Council has been awarded £35,000 to redevelop the play area and introduce a picnic area. Work there is expected to start in the spring.
We've been talking about it for ages, but as usual, you've got to get the funding together. And it's been in situ, I wouldn't like to say for how long, but it's certainly very, very outdated. So things want to be brought up to date. We do have some outline plans, but we'd like to consult with the youngsters to find out what it is they would like to see there, because after all, they're going to be using it, we're not. Some of it was looking a little bit dangerous, you know, rusty, this, that and the other, and so we had been talking about it for a while, but like everything else, you've got to get the funding in place, and so we decided that this year it would have to be done. So hopefully, after the consultation, work will begin in spring, and then it'll be ready for the little sweethearts to be there during the summer.
Owners of Ford Transit vans are being urged to be vigilant after a spate of thefts. 9 vehicles have been stolen across West Lindsey in the last 4 weeks. The vans have been taken overnight and driven to rural locations. The engines have been removed and the vehicles burnt out. An elderly man has suffered serious injuries following a crash in Bridlington. It happened on Tuesday morning on Queensgate at the roundabout junction of St Chard Road. The 88-year-old man was knocked from his cycle by a car in a hit and run. It's believed the car was a red Citroën Picasso. The man remains in hospital with life-threatening injuries. Hedden Town Council has rejected plans for a new development in the town. The Sewell Group want to build a £200 million energy and business park on the site of the former aerodrome. But town councillors say it's not the right land due to flooding issues and a risk to local wildlife. They want land on the other side of the A1033 to be considered instead. A final decision will be made by East Riding Council. Patients in Hull might soon have a new GP service. NHS England has announced plans to boost the number of surgery-based clinical pharmacists nationally. 5 GP practices, including Newhall Surgery, Newland Group Medical Practice and Diadem Medical Practice, will have new clinical pharmacists for tasks such as prescription queries and discharge letters from hospitals. The new scheme is designed to help GPs deal with more serious patient appointments. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds is calling on school children to get outside and close to nature. The Big Schools Birdwatch is running until February, where youngsters can learn about the nature that lives in their local community. Stuart Taylor of the charity explains more.
From now until February the 23rd, there's a big project taking place at schools where children and teachers can go out for an hour and count the birds in the playground, or if they've got a nature spot or something like that, for 1 hour, and just count the birds really, and have fun, learn to identify birds, maybe put a bird feeder out. It's all about getting youngsters involved, getting them interested in nature, and this is a good way to do it. We're trying to get them back outside. They need the nature, we need the nature needs to be looked after. Children, they need to be out in the fresh air, learning, feeling things, touching things, looking at things, and learning firsthand, not just at the computer. Get out there and look at it, and this is one way you can do that. The Humber Estuary itself is full of wildlife. There's lots of nature reserves along the estuary. We've got woodlands, loads of fields. I don't know where to stop really. I could go on forever. There's loads and loads of wildlife here for people to get out and look at.
People across the East Riding are being urged to recognise unsung heroes in their communities. And I'm joined now by Councillor Caroline Fox, Chairman of the Council, of East Riding Council, to tell me how people can make nominations for the Chairman's Awards. Caroline, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in.
Welcome.
First of all, let's establish you're the Chairman of East Riding Council, but as that chain indicates, that's a sort of quasi-mayoral position, isn't it?
Well, the chain, actually, the stones in there, they've actually been picked off the beaches of Bridlington and Hornsmead and Withensea. So it's very much an East Riding of Yorkshire chain.
Well, you are actually wearing a bit of the East Riding of Yorkshire.
I am.
How wonderful. It's very beautiful. It's a sort of modern,
Yes.
Rather than
It's very attractive.
It's
Yes.
lovely. It's gorgeous. Now, let's move on to these Chairman's Awards. First of all, what sort of categories might be winning these awards? What sort of qualities are people looking for?
Well, the categories are that people can make nominations in built heritage. There are 2 award categories within this section: single new dwellings, conversions and minor works, commercial developments and major schemes category.
Okay.
Business.
Right. How many categories are there before we list them
Well,
all
we
out?
have 5
Okay.
categories.
I beg your pardon. In that
Right,
case, we should
5.
hear about all of them, yeah.
5. So business, there are 2 award categories within this section: under 50 employees category and 51 and over employees categories. The other ones, environment. There is 1 award category within this section: community. There are 2 award categories within this section: individual category and group category. Sport. There are 2 award categories within this section: individual category and group category.
And is that 5? I wasn't counting.
Was that 5? I
That's
think
it.
so.
That's
1,
it.
2, 3, 4, 5, yes.
Karen, you should be presenting the Oscars. Now, what is it that these awards are trying to celebrate? What's the quality that you're looking for that might highlight a winner?
Well, there's so many individuals in East Riding who have actually done wonderful things for their community. They're all out there. They're the unsung heroes. I mean, there's people where I know in the village I live in that sells plants from a house, and all that goes for the St John's.
Oh yes,
right?
The ambulance service.
Ambulance service, and then of course you've got people who. Another case I could bring up locally, where somebody fell into the canal walking their dog early morning. Another lady out there, or in the autumn of her years as well, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying that.
It's a very polite way of saying it.
Actually stopped and used when this lady slipped into the canal, used the dog lead she had to hold her in
Brilliant. That really is heroic. It's
Very good. And basically, she never wanted anybody to know about it. But that's what she did until the emergency services arrived.
Well, it also demonstrates it's very healthy to have a dog.
Exactly. And then, of course, you've got Remembrance Sunday. You've got people out there all the time selling poppies for our armed forces.
If people want to make nominations for the awards, is there an address they should go to?
There is. For more information or to submit a nomination, go to www.eastriding.gov.uk/Chairman's Awards.
Okay.
Or email chairmans.award@eastriding.government.uk, or contact Sarah Asquith, Civic Office at East Riding of Yorkshire Council on 01482 393 260.
And when's the deadline?
At the end of the month.
And when will the awards ceremony take place?
It will take place. You have asked me a question now, and I should know that.
It's all right. It's not
It'll take place on the 9th of May.
Lovely. Caroline, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Join me after the break. Jack will bring us the views of Nigel Adkins and Graham Alexander, and I'll be talking to John Gilbert about children's films. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight in the sport with Jack, we'll hear from Nigel Adkins and Graham Alexander. And earlier today, I spoke to John Gilbert about a new series of films informing young people about the risks of sexual abuse. John, thanks very much for coming in. You've made these 3 films. They're having a sort of a premiere, a release as it were. When's that happening?
So the preview is taking place next Tuesday, and then the whole set of videos will be live from the Wednesday.
And just to describe these 3 films for us, what's going on in them?
Certainly. So as part of the Not in Our Community campaign, we've got a new serialisation called Deception. And Deception has got 3 main strands to it, which are distinct stories with different kind of types of grooming and sexual exploitation, so that people can understand that there isn't one type of victim and one type of circumstances. So the 3 main stories that we follow Dean's story, which is actually told from the perspective of the perpetrator. So you see from Dean's internal monologue, really, how he's targeted Lydia and the things he does to control her. He's quite an unpleasant guy, as you can imagine. So, but it's interesting, you learn the process and how the things he does in order to control her. We have Callum's story, which is told from the perspective of a 14-year-old boy who is initially jealous when he finds out that his best friend is in a relationship with an older woman, until he finds things out that maybe it's not as rosy as he thought it would be, and it's about challenging his views around that, and really demonstrates that a young male can be a victim and actually females can be perpetrators of this kind of behaviour. And then the third one is Esme's story, which is about how she's introduced to a group of young people. It's an exciting lifestyle for her at first. There's drinking, drugs involved, but again, unfortunately, with all of these, it turns out the darker forces are at play, and she finds herself in a situation she really doesn't want to be in.
How can people see these films, and who's the audience? Who are they designed for?
Yeah, so principally they're aimed at secondary school children. We do put an age advisory on these. It's about age 15 and over. But if younger ones want to watch it, it's there available. It's up to schools who can freely use these and have got resources to back them up if they feel it's appropriate. They can do that. The things will be released as bit by bit as a serialisation, but as is true to today's modern media consumption, the whole thing will be available on YouTube as a playlist. If you want to binge watch the whole thing, then you can do so.
It's good storytelling. It's narrative. It's always a good way of communicating. And these young people, and a lot of them are going to see it, presumably across the whole of the Humber region.
Yep.
Tens of thousands?
Yeah, I mean, typically when we create something, that is the kind of viewing figure that we get from it. And we know that because we get the data that we pull from the social media. We do know that also sometimes schools choose to use this as well. So there's a kind of an additional audience there. It's a really powerful way of doing it. We use storytelling as much as possible. And the way we do that is co-produced with other young people. So our 3 stories are all based, sadly, on real life events. And we've had input in the way that that's written by other groups of young people. They're obviously involved involved in kind of the way that the scenes we set, the acting as well. If it was left to my team and I to do it, it might feel a little outdated and so on as well. So they keep us on our toes and make sure it's realistic.
Well, it sounds like a rather fascinating experience as well, just in terms of the production. If you're getting young people involved in making it, in all aspects of making a film, well, as I can promise you, we both know, quite a complicated process.
Yeah.
Did they enjoy it? Was that a sort of education?
Oh yeah, yeah. And
right?
this is why we're holding a preview. Really, it's fantastic. It's quite a challenging experience at times as well, given the subject matter. But we've got young people who are bringing family members along for the screening and so on as well, just so that we've made this happen really as well. And in terms of the work placements that they've done, they're picking up other skills as well. So yeah, they're part of an extended team really. There's not in our community, it's not just me and my team who work from an office as well. They've got lots of young people who are good ambassadors for it, who improve the campaign all the time.
As you say, it is very challenging subject matter, and lots of these young people, this big young audience is going to be seeing it and learning from it. But what should they be doing with that insight, with that information?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always have to be careful. The point of this campaign is not to frighten people. You do need to be realistic that these things do happen and that you are potentially, unfortunately, at risk by definition of being a young person. But the positive part of this is to take these negative experiences and actually equip people in order to protect their friends. So with these stories and the kind of the lesson plans that support them as well, it's all about what could you have a friend done to A, identify that your friend might have been at risk, and then B, where would you go for help for that? So it's an educational, we're looking at behaviour change here as well. And the social norm of this is being a good friend and actually trying to do something earlier on before it's too late.
John, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hull-born actor Sir Tom Courtney will receive a special honour tomorrow. He'll be granted the honorary freedom of the city by Hull City Council. He'll receive a scroll from the Lord Mayor of Hull, Councillor John Hewitt, at a full council meeting. The 80-year-old actor was born in the city and lived on Hessel Road as a child. He rose to fame in the early 60s in films such as Billy Liar and Dr. Zhivago. He was knighted for his services to cinema and theatre in 2001. The title of Honorary Freeman of the City is the highest honour the council can give to people for their services to the community. People of African descent across the East Riding are being asked to come forward. Their stories could form part of a new exhibition in Beverley later this year. Our Histories Revealed looks at the history of Africans and their descendants in the region from 1750 to 2007. The exhibition opens at the Treasure House in May. An exhibition was held at Hull History Centre as part of the City of Culture celebrations, and a substantial online archive was created. Anyone of African heritage who'd like to share their story to form part of the exhibition should contact the team via africansinyorkshireproject.com. That's africansinyorkshireproject, all one word. More than 5,000 animals are being counted for the Deep's annual census. The Hull-based aquarium holds more than 300 species. Those carrying out the task will be armed with just a clicker and a clipboard over a number of days. The count is important to share data with aquaria around the globe to plan breeding programs for vulnerable and endangered species. How do they know there are more than 5,000 before they counted them? As we reported yesterday, a consultation's been launched by the Post Office on the future of Willoughby's Post Office. Now, Bilton's Post Office requires a new home after it's closed down in January following the resignation of its postmaster. The nearest one is on the Long Hill estate. Residents fear the service will be axed completely if no one comes forward. And here is Jack with all the sports news.
We'll begin with football, and Hull City head coach Nigel Adkins has given an injury update about long-term absentee Ryan Mason. The 26-year-old midfielder has been on the sidelines since a sickening head collision against Chelsea last January. The clash with England international Gary Cahill resulted in Mason suffering life-threatening injuries after fracturing his skull. However, Adkins said Hull's record signing has some positive involvement with the group recently.
He's been joining the bits with us, bits and pieces, bit with the... We've got some really good rehab guys. So his pitch work, he's out there, he's been doing all the things. We've had him being involved with us, obviously people mindful of contact and different things, but building all that up, and obviously he's going to go and see a specialist, and he's in good spirits.
On to Scunthorpe United now, and manager Graham Alexander has been speaking about his squad's injury list. Playing numbers have increased thanks to a number of new signings in the January transfer window. Despite this, Alexander listed those players who are currently on the treatment table.
Johnny Marget's still going to be a while. Jordan Clark's getting better day in, day out, but he's still going to be a good while before he's fit. Sam Mantum is probably a couple of weeks away, so he's getting better as well. So, you know, there's not that many. Hopefully that stays that way, that are unavailable at the moment, but they're all making good progress and working extremely hard with the medical team, and the medical team are working extremely hard with them. So it's a part of football. It's a fact of this competitive business that people will get hurt, but you just hope that it doesn't affect the 11 that go out there on a Saturday.
Meanwhile, Grimsby Town have been successful in their appeal against the dismissal of striker Jamil Matt. Matt was given a straight red card for violent conduct late on in the home defeat to Newport County last weekend. After reviewing video footage, the Mariners appealed the decision on the grounds of wrongful dismissal. Matt had scored just 10 minutes earlier, but the Mariners lost the game 2-1 at Blundell Park. He's now eligible for selection for the League Two fixture at Colchester United this Saturday. And finally, in Rugby League, the kick-off time for the first Hull derby of Super League 2018 has been confirmed. Hull Kingston Rovers will face off against Hull FC at KCOM Craven Park on Good Friday, the 30th of March at 1 o'clock. Kick-off has been moved forward from 3 o'clock due to television requests. The two sides played each other last Sunday, with the Robins beating the Black and Whites in the annual Clive Sullivan Trophy at the KCOM Stadium. That's all for the sport. Back to Hugh in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jack. Good news for Tom Courtney there, getting the freedom of the city of Hull. Dr. Zhivago is very, very long, though, isn't it? If you have a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Contacts are on screen. Email news@estuary.tv or call Grimsby 01472 31553, or you can write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Grimsby, DN345BQ. Until tomorrow, good evening.